how much you get paid is always in direct correlation to the size of the problem that you're solving and how quickly you're solving it.
I think it's a great point, that is. And I learned that part of the sales logic from a really good friend of mine, Paul Simpson, as opposed to just saying, this is what it's going to cost. Really understand what the problem is. Matt, I'm really honored to have you in the studio.
Thanks.
I've been following you for a while.
Yeah.
You talk about some great stuff. You've been featured and you work with some great marketeers, Christo in particular. So big shout out to you and to Chris for that. Before we get into the thick of it, I want a bit of an icebreaker. Ask you a few questions. Give me some quick answers. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Beach holiday or city break?
My preference would be somewhere in between. I love cities that have beach and city. So I love, like, I just came back from Rio. I love Rio, Barcelona. I live in Dubai. So I just love having to be able to go into the city and also just go down to the beach. That would be my preference.
Awesome. Very good. It's been a while since I've been to Florida, but Miami's probably that's the right balance.
I've never been, but I've seen the photos. Yeah.
All right. Ocean Drive. I recommend it.
Yeah.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Didn't even have to think about that.
I'm not a big cat fan. I've just lost 50% of listeners, but I don't care.
Netflix or board game?
Depends what the board game is. I'd probably say Netflix, though.
Netflix. All right. Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Pineapple on your pizza?
No.
Concert or comedy show?
Oh, that's a tough one. I love both. I'm going to say concert for now, because I've not been to a good one for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And nearly there. Winter snow or summer sun?
Winter snow.
Is that because now you've moved to warmer climates and you miss the snow?
Yeah, and I also love snowboarding. And every year, the last 3 years, I've been on an entrepreneur trip. Like Daniel Priestley hosts like a skiing holiday, and it's just been amazing. Just incredible people, incredible place, incredible slopes. Just, I've met some amazing people. So that kind of stands out in my mind as when you ask that question, that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Awesome. Camping or 5-star hotel?
5-star hotel.
Texting or talking?
Say again.
Texting or talking?
Talking. Okay. I'm terrible at texting.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What is it you actually do?
I think
and who do you serve?
Yeah. I think the simplest way to explain what I do is I help really talented creatives to market and sell themselves better. I think that's the most concise definition of what I do.
That is a great elevator pitch. Yeah. Do you narrow it down to, is there a particular size? Is it a particular, as we move into the creator economy and your traditional agencies, and that contrast is so wide, do you narrow it down, or is it kind of anyone in that spectrum?
Our ideal clients are studios. So they typically define themselves as studios, and that's people that have either got kind of 2 or 3 founders and a network of freelancers, or they have a team of up to about 12 people. Anything above that can still help them, but it becomes a lot more like leadership and management coaching. Anything below that, people usually can't afford us.
Yeah. And probably their mindset and size of the business is not ready to really scale as well. They're probably still on that growth plan, that early part.
Yeah, and not all people, should I say, want to scale. There's a lot of people who are happy just being one-man bands. 100%. And I think now with technology, especially with all the AI stuff, it's actually way easier. You can kind of have a one-man band with an army of like AI agents and automations, and you have a team of 10 people.
Absolutely. For years and years, I've always leaned on more technology than more people, because more people just become an HR issue.
Yeah. And creatives hate managing people as well.
Yeah. Whether it's the left or right side of the brain, I'm not going to argue about that. But that side of the creative mindset doesn't always gel the best with dealing with people. It's like, get on with it or get out.
It's like Steve Jobs, basically. Like all the stories you hear about him and how he treated people, but he was kind of a creative genius.
He was a creative genius, absolutely. The office is in Dubai, and you operate from Dubai? Global. Okay, so you've got clients everywhere.
Yeah. I set my business up because at the moment, this stage of my life, travel and just that kind of location independence is so important to me. I set my business up very intentionally. Back in 2015, before I even had this coaching business, when I ran an agency, I set it up to be fully remote because I knew I loved travel and I knew I loved that feeling of exploring. But I think now more than ever, the geographically located businesses are going to be the ones that are hardest hit and that are going to struggle the most in the next, I'm going to say 3 or 4 years, because we're moving from a kind of local economy to a global economy. I mean, we're already in it, but more and more as technology evolves, I think there might be a shift going back the other way where everyone wants to be in person again. But I think we're going to go through that dip, and unless you can serve people globally, I think it's gonna feel hard.
I think it's a great point. And if I think about our journey over the last even 3 years, the amount of international work we've done and doing, we've got clients in the US, we're working in Italy, Croatia. In January, we're hoping to be in Dubai. So if that materializes, there might be some synergy. I might shout you again and come join us in Dubai. There's lots happening on the international front because the world is getting smaller, technology is getting better, we can communicate easier, and you can cherry pick the best people. We're not limited to your local, 20-mile radius anymore. Years ago, we used to travel up and down to London, but now it's just as easy to get anywhere in the world.
You've got the advantage of still having geographical economies, but global business. And what I mean by that is, you said you've got your team in India, I've got my VAs in the Philippines. Their cost of living is nowhere near what it is in places like Europe and the US. Therefore, you can pay them less and they still have an amazing lifestyle.
Absolutely.
And I find they're equally as qualified. My VA is incredible. She basically runs my business for me. And I think if I was paying somebody like that in the UK or in the States, it would be 3 or 4 times probably what I'm paying her.
We're just onboarding a new sales guy. He's in South Africa.
Great place for sales.
Yeah, absolutely. Our team is in India. So a lot of our digital marketing, a lot of our post-production, a lot of the long form, a lot of the projects where we've got more lead time, bounce it back to the economies of scale, just kick in. And the quality is good. It's not like, gone are the days that, why are you passing it to India or abroad? Is it cheaper? Is it weaker? Absolutely not. The quality is absolutely on point. And just for all the reasons you said as well, it's a win-win for them and for us. So what's your biggest challenge right now?
I think understanding what an AI first business looks like. I believe that this evolution of artificial intelligence is the same as the digital revolution, but on steroids. So I think this is where we all had to go from business owners to content creators in order to stay ahead and have websites and all of that stuff. I think the AI revolution is exactly the same. I think you need to be thinking as an AI first business. And so I've basically just taken a month off to really consider, like, what does the next stage of business look like, and how am I leveraging AI in order to actually serve people powerfully or even more powerfully than I can on a one-to-one basis. So I'll give you a real life example. I've been finishing my book this weekend and it's a painful process. Like, I want to write it myself. I could get a ghostwriter. I could use AI, but I want it to be my thoughts because it helps me to unpack my ideas and it helps me to communicate my ideas better if I write it. I started to get like these really weird visual migraines, basically, where it starts with like a little spot in your eye and it's kind of like this zigzaggy thing and it gradually gets bigger and bigger and it kind of like takes over your vision. When it first happened to me, it was really, really scary. I thought I was having a stroke or something, right? But I went to the doctors, got all my eyes checked and everything, and it's this kind of it's called like an oral migraine. So you don't necessarily get a headache with it, but it just takes over your vision. And one of the key reasons that happens is because we look at screens too much, basically, and our brains aren't used to staring at screens all day. Like, we didn't evolve to do that, and we've got all of these electronic signals like hitting our brain all the time. So I do think that in a few years' time we're going to look back and discover that we were doing a lot of damage to ourselves by constantly being on screens and constantly living in this digital world. And it might have to get so extreme that it goes to as far as like Ready Player One, where we're all got these headsets on, or, you know, these new Google glasses that are supposed to be coming out, for us to realize that actually we didn't evolve to live in this digital world. So I do think there's some real concerns. And I think you hear a lot of people like Peter Attiel, for example, who's like a very well-known doctor, and Huberman, and people speaking about these negative effects of digital devices. So I think it's a real thing to try and pay attention to, and try and limit your exposure to as much as possible throughout the day. At least have breaks, get outside, do what I just did, take time off and just switch off from the business, switch off from the screens, get out into nature. And again, like I said to you at the beginning, we might see a kickback where those kind of businesses, I don't know whether it's like wellness retreats or things where you're coming in person, even like here, to do a day filming where you're not staring at a screen, you've got someone directing you and you're walking around, and, you know, you're not the person staring at the screen. That might be the next evolution. Once we kind of get over this AI or this digital hump, we might see a kickback, I think.
Yeah, I think you got a great point. There's a bit of a novelty at the moment with AI and being sucked into the screen. What did you call it? Oral migraine?
Yeah, aura migraine.
Aura migraine, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I think I had one a couple of weeks ago. What you described is exactly the feeling I had, because it was bizarre, because my eyes kind of like went...
Yeah.
And then I came back after about 5-10 minutes, but it was... Yeah, how bizarre. I'll have to get checked out myself.
Just give it a quick Google and tell you.
I definitely spend too long in front of screens. There's no ifs or buts about that.
Yeah.
You know, we're running a business. That's the challenge in itself. And then just the nature of what we do. I'm in at 7:30 in the morning, at the best if I leave at 6 o'clock. So it's a lot of hours in front of a screen. What I've been trying to force myself to do wherever possible. If I've got a meeting, can we do a walking meeting? Let's meet around a park. Let's meet wherever we're meeting. Is there a local place where we can just walk and talk and capture that same kind of conversation? It's not happening as often as I would like it, but I think that's something I'm trying to encourage more in my daily routine, because I don't get a chance to get out.
No. One of the shifts I made about a year ago was I used to do all of my coaching calls on video. And I just said to my clients, I'm going to try just audio only. And it was like a game changer. Really? Because I was able to just plug my phone in, put my headphones on, and just walk around my apartment. And I wasn't like, you know, as vain as we think we aren't. We are always checking out ourselves on the camera, like, how am I looking, and blah, blah. And like, I'm kind of concentrating on that rather than concentrating on what my client is saying. So when I do the audio only sessions, and I'm quite an auditory person as well. So I can really listen to both what they are saying and also what they aren't saying. And it kind of created a bit of a shift in my coaching, where I was actually getting more powerful breakthroughs with my clients, because I was really, really listening to what was going on for them. And also I was able to walk around, and, you know, there is actually research to say that we think differently when we're walking and when we're in open spaces versus just sitting at a desk staring at a screen. So I think it's worth for anyone listening thinking about, like, if you are spending too much time on screens, what are some changes that you could make in an ideal world? Forget what your clients might say or might think. What are some changes that you would make? And then just testing that with a few clients, because I think people have a lot of assumptions about how people are going to react, and they don't do things based on those assumptions. Rather than actually just having the conversation, testing it, how's someone going to react? They're like, oh no, I don't want to do that because I'll lose this client, or that client won't be happy. Or you're like, but have you actually had that conversation? Have you actually tested that thing? Or is that just a fear or an assumption that you have right now?
Validate the process.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great idea. I can just imagine it. You'd probably zone in because there's less distractions. Do you ever meditate?
Yeah.
It's exactly
day.
That, isn't it? Yeah, every day. It's the same here. And it's exactly that, because you close your eyes, you focus, you breathe. Whatever your tradition is, it gives you that focus. Whereas if your eyes are open and something's happening, or the time of the day, or if it's later in the day, and this is why in our tradition we meditate right early in the morning, because the world's at peace and mayhem of the world, or your day hasn't started, and you can just focus. And that's what resonated with me when listening to you on that point. I'm just going to digress a little bit and talk about, you mentioned Daniel Priestley, you mentioned Chris Do. What was it like working with them? What did you learn from them experiences? And you might be still working with them. And what's your takeaways from working with, big names in the industry? You're not a small name yourself. So, but what are the learnings?
So for some context, Daniel was one of my early mentors. When I closed my creative studio and decided that I wanted to go into coaching, I read his book, Key Person of Influence. I saw him speak in London, got into a conversation with him and ended up working with him and his team. And that was back in 2016. So that's how long I've sort of known Daniel for. And it was interesting because I always thought that he was a different kind of entrepreneur. And a lot of the ways that he articulates his ideas are very, very different from anyone else in that space. And I kind of felt like he didn't really get credit for that. Like I felt like he was on the same level as the Seth Godins, the Tim Ferrisses. And I kind of thought, well, it's great, but like he isn't that famous. And what's interesting is over the past sort of, I'd say 2 or 3 years, he's really skyrocketed into the limelight.
Of course.
And it's been really interesting seeing him on that journey. And I kind of feel like he was built for it, and that's where he was made to be. When I met Chris was already quite big. I sent him a copy of my book. It really resonated with him. He invited me on his podcast, and we just kind of clicked, and we just became friends. And I would say me and Chris are friends to this day. What I've learned from hanging out with people like Daniel Priestley and Chris Do is that there are people who are cut from a different cloth. And Daniel Priestley describes these 2 types of entrepreneurs or businesses that you can run. He talks about a performance business, which is kind of typically 20 plus people, high growth, and it's really going for scale, and it's probably going to exit or be acquired at some point, right? Then you have your boutique business, which is kind of 2 to 10 people, somewhere between like 1.5 and 5 million, small team, dynamic, fun. And so the people that run those businesses typically are different types of people, different types of personalities. And I always loved the idea of running a performance business. I always thought of myself as an entrepreneur, but the more time I spend with people like Daniel and people like Chris, the more I realize I'm not. And I'm okay with that. And I've started to make peace with that. Chris and I are probably more similar, but Chris is a machine. Like when I hang out with Chris, meet him in Dubai, I've met him in Sharjah, like he's come over for talks. Chris can function on 4 hours of sleep a night. He can get up and give a keynote. He'll be tweaking his slides until the last minute. Like he's a very high functioning person as well as a creative person. So like I try my hardest not to compare myself to them because I really believe that they operate in a different way and they are here on this planet to do different things than I'm here to do. So I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that you don't have to compare yourself to other people, or you shouldn't compare yourself to other people. And the most important thing is to find who you are as a person and what comes naturally to you, what feels good to you, what feels in the flow, but take lessons from those people and we can get into that if you want. I mean, there's so many things that I could tell you about entrepreneurship and personal development that I've learned from them. But I think the big overarching theme is that like, don't look at someone like Daniel Priestley or even Grant Cardone or Tony Robbins or any of these people you look at and think, oh God, they're doing all these things and like, I'm just doing this. They're probably a different personality. They run in a different way. They operate in a different way. And that's not to say you shouldn't have ambitions or goals, but I just don't think it's healthy to compare yourself to somebody who operates in a different way.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's a great reflection to recognize what they are, who they are, what they do and how they operate. And I over the last probably 5 or so years, I've started to work in frameworks and understand, all right, this is the framework they're working in. How can that relate to my world? Definitely not imitate. And you see a lot of businesses, agency, creatives in their infancy. That's all they do. And I think that's just part of their journey into finding themselves, but innovate from that. So the framework is there. There was Seth Godin you mentioned, another huge fan of mine, like all the others. what frameworks are they using? How can that apply to myself? And how can you put your own spin on it?
Yeah.
Because if you're just going to copy and paste, that's a bit weak.
It's probably not going to work.
It's not going to work.
I think so. One of the biggest things that I learned, especially from Daniel, is frameworks, and I love the way that he's able to take really complex ideas and break them down into simple frameworks. Like, I think that's one of his biggest strengths, because it just simplifies everything so much. Absolutely. It takes the guesswork out. It takes the complexity out of it. And you can literally just take, okay, here's my business. Like you said, how does this framework apply to what I'm doing? And you get all these light bulb moments like, oh yeah, I'm not doing this. Or when I put this through here, it comes out like this, and I want it to be like this. And it's just such a easy way to build something without the kind of guesswork and the uncertainty.
I agree. In a previous business, I used to run an events business. It was predominantly in the Asian wedding market. Have you ever been to an Indian wedding, Asian wedding?
I've not, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Okay, have you? Big elaborate affairs.
Yeah.
So a typical, say an English wedding or a Western wedding might be 80 people, 100 people, maybe 150. A small Indian wedding would be 400 people. A large one, easily 1,000 people.
Over like 3 or 5 days.
Yeah, exactly. And so for a number of years, just for the love of music and that kind of vibe, we used to DJ. And at our heights, we've played at the Natural History Museum, every hotel on Park Lane. We've been flown out to Australia on a couple of occasions. So, you know, that world was a great experience. But starting from a humble, you know, £80 wedding, right, as a school leaver, going up to, you know, 50 grand weddings on the other end. That's just performing and DJing and bringing all that production together. Quite often people would ask, well, isn't it overwhelming, or where does the overwhelm come in? And we would just break it down. I would just use frameworks, but I didn't do it as a plan. It just felt natural to me to say, well, it's that same thing, but slightly bigger and slightly bigger and slightly bigger. And as long as you've got good people around you, and I can't stress how valuable to have good people around you is part of that process, is that it's just more of the same, a little bit bigger here and a few more extra speakers, a few more extra lights, and someone to run that department now, because it's not just 2 speakers, it's like 25 speakers with delays and all of that good stuff. So you need someone to engineer that, and lighting is not now 3 or 4 lights, it's a whole room full of lights, and we need someone. So as long as you manage it, and with that mindset, when I came into the world of video, the same kind of thing. We've always done short form, like sub 5 minutes. Rewind 10, 15 years ago, a corporate video was 5-10 minutes at the max. We had a project that came to us, and it was, I don't know, maybe about an hour's length. And it was like, wow, that's really long in our world when we're used to doing 5 minutes. But you just do 12 5-minute projects. You just break that down, and it's suddenly you simplify the process and don't get overwhelmed by, wow, this is a really big project in comparison to what I'm used to. So that frameworks has been something that I've really grown with. So now when we speak to businesses or and try to understand the opportunity, we break it down into, well, strategically, what's the goal? Then that will feed into production. Production will feed into distribution. But it's just frameworks. Yeah. What's the goal? And let's rewind backwards, and we build on it like that. Rewind back 20 years, not even 10 years, 20 years, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
I'd pay closer attention to my values. So it took me a long time to realize that everything that we do in life is an attempt to meet one of our values. Everything that we do externally is an attempt to feel a certain way internally. And so you probably hear this story a lot. You know, it's very common now, the sort of, oh, I achieved all these things and I still wasn't happy, right? And why was that? And it's because we haven't spent enough time really understanding, okay, I want more money, but what does money really signify to me? What is that really about? Because it means different things to different people. For some people, it's about security. For other people, it's about significance. For other people, it's about freedom. So it's not the money. And if you just chase the thing thinking that's going to make you happy, whether it's money, whether it's a partner, whether it's material, like it doesn't matter, travel, whatever. If you chase what I call the vehicle and you don't know what the value is, then it's a very, very uncomfortable thing to experience. Because Oftentimes, and I heard Will Smith talk about this recently, you have all of the trappings of success. So externally, it looks like you should be very happy, but internally in your world, you feel very conflicted, you feel very lost, you feel quite unfulfilled, sometimes quite down and depressed. And it's confusing because you're like, well, I've worked really hard for all of these things and I still feel like this. Like, what's going on? Am I broken? Is there something wrong with me? And it's none of those things. It's just that you haven't figured out why you wanted those things. You haven't taken the time to stop and say, why do I want these goals? What do I think that is going to give me in terms of an actual feeling, an emotional state? And then when you know those things, start working out how you get that easily on a day-to-day basis, rather than waiting for the mansion or the perfect partner or the perfect car. How do I feel more freedom day to day? What do I need to do? What small tweak do I need to make today to feel more freedom? And it could be as simple as, like you were talking about meditation earlier. And this, again, is very cliche, but it just works. Is, can you just notice where you have freedom in your life? Can you just be grateful for where you do have freedom? So if you run your own business, can you be grateful for the fact that maybe you don't have to set an alarm? Or maybe if you cancel this client meeting, it's not going to be the end of the world. Or maybe if you wanted to take 2 weeks off, all of your clients would be understanding. Isn't that like incredible? Isn't that so much freedom compared to when you had that 9-to-5 job and you had that horrible boss or whatever? And it's just like giving yourself that emotional experience on a day-to-day basis, rather than thinking, when I get X, I will be happy.
Absolutely. Happiness isn't a goal, it's a journey. And I think we all struggle sometimes to just appreciate it, because maybe we're too close to it. We're too close to life. And I was talking to my son just last week, and we were walking. I don't think I could ever work for somebody, because I've had the freedom of running my own business. But then I kind of straight away said, well, actually, all my clients are my boss. So I am working for someone. It's just a different framework. What's your advice to graduates, school leavers, youngsters coming into our world? What do you think they should embrace, consider, do, knowing the experience you've had over the last 20 years with how you can see the whole industry moving?
I mean, first, go back to your values, right? Understand what is important to you, because it's a journey. And if you go on that journey without understanding your values, it's easy to feel very lost, especially in the fast-paced world that we're living in right now. So that would be my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice would be immerse yourself in AI. Immerse yourself in everything that's happening in the AI world, because I don't think there's any escaping it right now, at least, right, for the foreseeable future. And I think if you go too much into a particular skill set, I think you're going to maybe become unstuck, because I think it's moving so quickly that that skill set might become redundant. So focus on, as a core skill, focus on your ability to solve problems. Can you get really good at solving problems in a short space of time, utilizing all of the tools and all of the information that currently exists? I think if you can do that and you can be that person, you will never be out of work. You will always have money, because ultimately that's what business is about. It's about being able to solve problems in a way that other people can't, whether that's faster, whether that's cheaper, whether that's using a unique process, whatever it is. Like, how much you get paid is always in direct correlation to the size of the problem that you're solving and how quickly you're solving it.
I think it's a great point, that is. And I learned that part of the sales, I suppose, logic from a really good friend of mine, Paul Simpson. And as opposed to just saying, this is what it's going to cost, really understand what the problem is. And now, even with all the work we do, or the clients we work with, when I sit with them to understand how we're going to help them, what is the problem you're solving for your customers? And if we don't really know what that is,
how do you market?
Well, we there's nothing for us to do at the moment. We need to take a step back, and either you need to thrash that out and come back to us when you're clear. The most common one is, well, our products for the whole market is for everybody, and it's like, no, it can't be.
You're screwed then.
Exactly, we've got problems.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to have a ICP, you've got to have an ideal customer persona. You might have a few, that's fine as well. But if you don't understand, who your customer is, what problem they're experiencing, you can't aggravate the problem, and then you can't present your solution. In the absence of that, it's a tough place.
I always use the metaphor. I really like this. I can't remember if I came up with it, if I heard it from somewhere. So if I'm stealing this from someone, then apologize. But it's like saying, go to Euston or go to St. Pancras, right? And I need you to find someone for me. What's your first question going to be?
Who are they? Who am I looking for?
What do they look like?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they male? Are they female? Are they tall? Are they short? Are they black? Are they white?
Is it anyone?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like how easy is it going to be for you to find that person if you don't know who you're looking for?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take a note of that. I'm going to use that as well. It's a nice one.
You can steal it.
Yeah.
Someone somewhere.
Someone. Yeah. Exactly. What are the, say, three takeaways that, or three things that you want to start with quizzing a business when there's an opportunity to work with them?
The first thing is, what do they want?
Yeah.
And it's kind of similar to what you just spoke about. If people don't know what they want, it's very hard to help them. And I don't just want to know what they want, like we want more leads. I want to know, what do they want their business to look like? What do they want their life to look like? How clear are they on those things? Because that determines whether I can help them or not. If they're like, I want to just stay and be a one-man band, I just want to earn an extra 10K a month, I want to just have a few more clients, then I'm not the person for you, right? I'm working with people who want to make a significant change. They want a transformation in their business, whether that's the type of clients they work with, whether that's how much they charge, whether that's taking themselves out of their business so they can spend more time with their kids and more time with their family. Like, it needs to be a significant goal in order for people to be motivated enough to change. So that's the first thing. And this is going to sound maybe a bit obvious, but the second thing is, why don't they have that already? So what has prevented them? What has prevented them from getting it? And I want to hear their story. I want to see if they point externally or whether they point internally. Because if they just point externally, I still get on calls with people and I hear things like, well, in COVID, I was like, dude, that's 4 years ago or something. Like, why are you still talking about COVID? I'm talking about today. What's preventing you today? Yeah. So if they're always pointing externally to the economy, to their team, to external circumstances, that's usually a red flag.
Yeah.
Because those things kind of are outside of your control. And it's a very like victim mindset. So I'm looking for a sense of self-awareness, and I'm looking for, do they have an idea of what their own internal patterns might be that show up that prevent them from getting these things. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is, where are they on a pain scale? Like, is this a 10 out of 10, I need this to change? Or is this a 2, 3 out of 10, it would be good to happen in the next few years? Because again, if they're not an 8 or a 9, then they just don't have the level of motivation that they need in order for me to be able to help them.
Yeah, makes sense. It's the same way we grade businesses that come into our world, because you can have the ambition, but the ambition is fueled by that motivation. And if it's not there, if it's a nice to have, it's like, yeah, it'd be nice to have it, but it's like, we don't want to work. That's a lifestyle business, and that's fine. And carry on. And when you're ready to make a change, and maybe we can speak again. But otherwise,
and people think that's just about sales, right? People think that's just. And I'm speaking about the coaching world specifically, but I do think it translates into other businesses.
It does.
Because if somebody comes into a sale and they're, let's say, a 6 out of 10 in terms of motivation, but maybe they've got a bunch of money and they're just like, oh, it'd be cool to like work with Rash Powell and his team. Like, let's see what we can do. That motivation isn't going to increase over time. It's only going to decrease because people are most excited at the point of sale.
Of course.
So if people are anything below a 6 in terms of their urgency and their commitment to make a change, just don't work with them.
Yeah. Push back.
Yeah. Until they're an 8 or a 9.
Yeah. Because
that is peak point of motivation. So your challenge then as a service provider or as a coach or whatever you are, is to keep that motivation high, because it's the whole, I don't know if you've ever seen the diagram. There's this diagram, which is like, I can't remember what the actual name is, but it's like, it kind of goes down and then up and then down. And then it's basically like this idea that when you come in to start something new, whether it's, hey, I'm going to start a podcast or I'm going to change my business, you're at peak excitement, right? And you have this kind of like uninformed optimism and you're like, oh my God, this is going to be so good. Then you start working on the thing for a bit and you go, oh my God, this is so much work. Like, this is never going to work. And you see this kind of mountain ahead of you to climb, and you climb up the mountain. And in the diagram, it's like, this is where most people give up.
Fail.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you can push through that to the other side, then you get to see the view, you get to the top of the mountain. You're like, wow, all of that hard work was worth it. And most clients go through that journey. Most clients come in with this idea like, oh, we're going to work with Rash Powell and his team and it's going to be amazing. We're going to get results instantly. And like, our whole business is going to transform. And then they see all the work that they have to do, and they get really demotivated, and they kind of think, oh, maybe this was the wrong decision. So if that motivation is low to come in, you've got like nothing left in the tank. Whereas if that motivation is high, you can get down to a 6 or 7 and still keep them moving, and then maybe try and get that up to an 8 or a 9 when they start to see things shifting. So for me, it's not just about the sales conversation. It's about, what is this person going to be like as a client? How are they going to show up to our meetings? How are they going to show up to the things that we ask them to do? If motivation is low, probably it's going to be a drag.
So many things resonate with me when you were explaining that, and the key thing with our model is we always map things out to a minimum of 12 months. We're going to work with you, and unlike a traditional video production company which works on a project or a campaign, our campaigns are 12 months. So we say it's a marathon, not a sprint. And that way we can manage their expectations and still see, are they still excited? Are they still motivated? And for the businesses that understand 1 year will fly by, it's actually 1 to 3 years. It's year 2 and year 3 that things are really going to soar. Then, they're the kind of buying signals that we're seeing on the table that, okay, there is a fit in here. Because we bring our best to the table when we have that investment in time and relationship. Because the relationship is key. The challenge we do have, and you might be able to give me some insights here, there's once we get past the novelty of the companies working with us, we're working with a new client, and that excitement is there. We do pride ourselves in having a good quality of service, a high quality of production values, and that whole experience. We're not talking about cameras, we're talking about the service that people get from working with us, is that excitement after 3 months, 6 months, because they're used to it, becomes the new standard. Now, how do we make sure that feeling of delight is what we call it, we can build on it and keep giving them delight without giving them more things, because that's not what we want to do. But because they're used to us now, they feel that standard. Sometimes we've lost a client because they think they want to work with another agency, which is fine, but then they circle back to us because they're not getting that same level of delight that they thought from us was now standard, because we standardized it, we normalized it. But it's, how do we build on that? Have you got any nuggets for me?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I used to sell a 12-month coaching program.
Okay.
And I found, firstly, it was our best case studies, every single one of them committed to our 12-month program. Secondly, the best case studies we have paid for the 12 months up front. So when you're talking about this level of like commitment and skin in the game, I do think that's really important to have that really high to start with. So it's almost worth sense checking, going back through, I don't know if you record your sales calls or whatever, and being like, where were they actually in terms of that level of motivation? The ones that dropped out after 6 or even 3 months, where were they on that scale? Did we need to push them so that it was higher? So that's kind of like phase 1 that I would do. But I had this same problem. So I had people after 6 months, they had this dip. And so we knew that everybody was going to go through it. And so we started to try and anticipate it. So the first thing that we did was we actually told them that it was going to happen.
Great shout.
Right. So we said, hey, this is what the journey looks like. And typically we see people around the six months, they'll get a few initial wins. And then after 6 months, they'll have this real dip and they'll start questioning everything. And this is where most people give up. And the people that have the best results are here. And so we kept painting that picture of the future constantly throughout that program. So that's like the second thing that we did. The third thing we did is we kept some aces up our sleeve. So I think like when a client comes on initially, we have this tendency, we want to impress them, we want to delight them, but we're almost like using all of our aces in the first few months. So they get blown away. And then, like you said, it's almost like law of familiarity. Like, oh, this is what it was like. Now I feel like these guys maybe aren't paying as much attention, but actually the service level hasn't changed at all. So instead, what I did is I realized from a psychological perspective, if they're most motivated in, let's say, the first 3 months, I actually need to do less to impress them then. So I did a lot of the things that I was doing in the first 3 months. I took that away and I introduced it in the 6 to 8 month mark.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I'll give you a really tangible example. one of the things we used to do is we used to give them access to like all of the content, and we used to say, here's our library, this is the journey, this is, and like a lot of people loved that, but it was also quite overwhelming.
Of course.
So we stripped that out, and we didn't give them access to that until the 6-month mark, and said, until you get here, you can't access any of this stuff. And then after 6 months, if you're still with us, here are some bonuses. We're going to hook you up on a one-to-one call with our product and pricing mentor. And so we like pushed all of these rewards further down the road, and also made it really clear. So it was almost like a bit of a gamification kind of level up. Like, this is what's coming in month 6 to 8, and this is what you get, and this is why it's good, and this is how it benefits you, right? And we just gradually dripped little things, because when people are like an 8 or a 9 in motivation, they only need a few little wins at the beginning to stay at that level.
So true.
Like when you first onboard a client, all you have to do is deliver on the things that you say you're going to do.
Absolutely.
That's it, because they're bought into the concept. When you make the sale and they sign and they send you the money, they're bought in. Like, I trust you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now I just need to say, here was my micro promise that I said, and I delivered on that micro promise. And their brain goes, oh yeah, this is what I expected. This is what they said that they were going to do. So you can keep clients happy for like 3 to 4 months, maybe even longer, just by delivering on basic promises that you made in the sales conversation. And then all the really stuff that you want to do to like impress them, keep that for later on down in the relationship.
I love that. I'm going to have to, sit down and work that out. I like that. Just manage their expectations up front, and then start to, don't give them everything up front, because it could be an overwhelm. Absolutely.
And just one more thing is like, think about like what you can do, the small little wins. Like, I always ask people a question in the sales conversation is like, if you could only fix one thing in your business in the next 30 days, what would you pick? And just work towards that. Just see if you can fix that little problem.
That little problem. How interesting. The one thing I do, and I'm quite religious about this, and I'd love to get your feedback on this one as well. So once we've done a handshake, got agreements in, money's in the bank, we know we're working, we have a first onboarding call just to say thank you, all of that good stuff. I go through 3 questions I always ask. What really piqued your interest right at the beginning of our journey that brought us out of the whole plethora of agencies out there? Why us? What piqued your interest? I want to really capture that. Secondly, at what point in that journey, what did I say? What did you see? What did you experience? That was like the turning point. You know, you're marketing qualified, you're sales qualified, but now with converting now, what was that key thing I said, or you saw, or you experienced to get you over the line? And then the third question I always ask is, at the end of 12 months, what do we need to achieve to make you feel that this was well worth it? And I capture that, and I use that as our fuel and a reminder. So when we do go through them dips that you mentioned, and I'm familiar with them, is I circle back to the goal that they said, not what I'm saying. I'm not trying to sell anything. And I always say, I hate sales, but I'll help people buy, because we've got the tools that can get that transformation from where you are to where you need to be. But we've got to keep reminding our customers, our clients, that this is your problem and this is where you want it to be, and this is we are on track. But life is always throwing you curveballs, and this is how we've managed them, and that's what kind of we've plugged into our system, and it is working well for us.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sound like good questions.
Would you describe yourself as a digital nomad?
At the moment, I think, yeah, probably. Someone called me a digital gypsy the other day.
Oh, really?
I was like, that's very offensive where I come from.
That's definitely a borderline, that is.
Yeah.
So someone who's interested in taking that journey, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, this has been like a decade-long thing. My first real traveling experience solo was in 2008 when I graduated from university. I'm lucky I've got family in New Zealand. So
Where did you study, by the way?
Where?
Where?
Yeah, Leeds.
Okay, you did Leeds. Yeah. And you were a Leeds lad?
No, not originally. From Kent originally.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. So you moved up in the world.
Moved up. Yeah, exactly. Literally. And so interestingly, my cousin actually at the time ran a film production studio, and they did a lot of commercial advertising. So I got thrown in the deep end there and got some amazing experiences. And that was kind of like my first taste of, I guess, working abroad and traveling and working. But it wasn't until 2013 that I really kind of took the leap to say, I'm going to be a freelancer and I'm going to do digital work. And so I started in web development and web design and things like that. Now, back then, places like Thailand and Southeast Asia, the internet was less than reliable. So it's not like it is now, where they've kind of cottoned on and they're like, oh, a lot of our tourism business comes from people who want to work remotely. So the advice that I would give someone back then is very different to the advice that I would give someone now. No. But I think the main thing, if you're genuinely considering being a digital nomad, for want of a better word, realize that the logistics of travel make up 40%, if not more, of your brain power and your time and everything. People think that they're just going to go somewhere and the life is going to be the same as when they're at home, but they're just working remotely. No, like the Airbnb is going to cancel on you at the last minute. You're going to check in somewhere where it says the Wi-Fi is amazing and the Wi-Fi isn't going to be amazing. There's going to be a power cut. Like you're going to be stressed out because you don't know where sells good food, and you're going to have to figure out, like, is there a gym locally? Like, it's almost like every time you move, you're moving your life, and therefore you have to find the cafe to work from, or where's your backup going to be? Like if your internet goes, where are you going to go to? Like, do you know where the nearest cafe with fast internet is? Like all of these things, all these logistical things take up a lot of brain power. So build that into your business. If you're at like 60% capacity right now, that's probably a good place to be. Don't become a digital nomad where you're literally at like 90% capacity and you're working 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night, because that's just going to burn you out and just totally throw you off.
I think it's a great piece of advice. And the thing that resonated with me when you said about internet speeds was, I remember way back in 2007, I went on a business mission, a trade mission with UKTI, I think they call it, to India, because that's when I wanted to find some partners out there or some production teams out there. And we did. We went to Mumbai and I met some great people. And I'm working with one of the guys I met from back then now. But the first 5 or 10 years, we did practically zero, just because the internet speeds out there were just like, we can't do it. It'd be cheaper for me, faster for me to put it on a drive and post it DHL, as opposed to do anything on the internet. Whereas now, it's not an issue.
Yeah, and you've even got things like Starlink and
absolutely.
Like most sell 5G. You can take calls and things if you need to. So,
but I laugh when you say that, because not because of India, but here, this industrial estate, up till a couple of years ago when we got a dedicated line put in, the broadband was atrocious.
Really?
There's a residential estate right next to us. They've got like 1 gigabyte of broadband.
Wow.
But coming to the business estate, we're off their geography. We're out of their catchment area.
Yeah.
You've got to get a dedicated line. It's like, what?
It's very UK, that is. Yeah. It's like Sue next door has got 1 gig internet and I'm struggling with like dial-up.
Exactly. Still. Absolutely. So it was frustrating. We've got a satellite on the roof and we've got a dedicated line now, which is lifesaver.
Yeah.
You can't move big video files on anything less than a dedicated line, which is well, we're on 300 up and down, which isn't super fast, but it's dedicated, so we're not sharing it. And it's what a business like ours needs. Matt, that was awesome. Real good insight to you and what you're doing and who you serve. I really enjoyed that conversation. A great insight to your experience working with Chris and Daniel as well. What's your 12-month achievement or goal? What you're planning to do in the next 6 or 12 months that you're trying to put your flag in the ground that this is my goal for 25, 26?
Well, I've got my second book coming out. Brilliant. Which I'm excited about. Growing my podcast, which I'm excited about because I've got some good guests lined up. I think the biggest thing, the number one goal, is building an AI-first business that can serve creatives at scale. Like up until this point, I've been a very boutique coaching business. I've had a maximum of 20, maybe 30 clients a year. And I've always avoided the kind of scale side of things because I don't want to manage a massive community. I don't want to do online courses because they don't have a high completion rate. It's kind of, it felt a little bit like taking people's money but not giving much in return. So I've always put all of my best content out for free and then just charged when people want some hands-on support. I think that's now shifting because of AI and because of a lot of the tools that we have. I've seen enough in that space to feel like I can give people the same value as I do one-to-one, but at scale. And so that's kind of like my big goal is what does that look like? What do I need to create to actually give people that same value that they get from a one-to-one mentor, but have 2, 3, 500 people or 500 clients instead of 20 or 30?
Exciting. So when you're ready and you launch that, please share that with us, tag us in, put us into your socials, and whatever we can do to help share that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
When are you hoping to have your book completed?
So it should be out in October. So I've got, I don't know if you have like show notes on this or whatever, but I've got a landing page where people can pre-register for the book.
Fantastic.
So be the first to know when it gets released.
Well, if we can get access to a copy of the book, and if we can share that with some of our guests as well that watch, we can work something out to see how we can share that. That'd be awesome. So keep us in the loop of that. It's been really educational, been really informative, and it's been a good chat. I've never heard of the phrase digital gypsy, but hopefully that doesn't catch on. Hopefully it doesn't catch on.
Yeah.
And enjoy. How much longer are you in Leeds before you back on travels?
Another week here.
Back
down to London, and then a bit of time in Europe before I go back to Dubai.
Okay, awesome stuff. Well, look, stay in touch.
Yeah, we'll do.
And lots to learn from the book and other things as well. And then we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for having me as a guest.
Nice one.